Howdy Connection Group leaders, happy Thursday. I'm sitting outside right now because it's only like 92 and I'm in the shade. And it's amazing what perspective can do, right? Yesterday I paid $3.50 for gas. Today it's only going to be 100 degrees and I'm like, wow, what a great day. And 3 months ago, if I'd have told you either of those things, I probably would have been complaining. So Jesus is kind in all sorts of ways, right? Y'all, listen, I want to tell you a cool story. Of course, we were at kids camp last week. This morning when I walked into my office, I didn't look at last week's lesson because we weren't having connection groups and because we knew we were going to be at kids camp. So I grabbed last week's lesson just to see what we're going to do. And the coolest thing, last week's lesson was going to be on Psalm 103, which is an incredible, super sweet song all about God's goodness. Now, here's why that's fun. Psalm 103 was one of the passages that we looked at kids camp. In fact, we spent the entire week looking at portions of Psalm 103. And I just thought it was such sweet confirmation of not only what the children's ministry team chose to study for kids camp, but also just a small affirmation, we're on the right track on the study together thing. Even when we weren't having connection groups, God still had us lined up, right? Because the thing is, we didn't get the curriculum to do Psalm 103 if we'd had connection groups until last month. We planned kids camp 6 months ago, that curriculum they were looking at, and God just continues to line things up. Several times he's done that with Pastor Eric's sermons and the D6 material. So I just thought that was really sweet. Also a fun little confirmation, this Sunday we're looking at Psalm 119. That's the passage that the students and I looked at least in part, at youth camp. And so again, I just think it's fun. God is obviously wanting us looking at the Psalms this summer, and so I hope you're enjoying this time. Now, as to Psalm 119, it's a massive passage. Obviously, you're probably not going to cover everything over the course of your class. So let me just offer up a couple of suggestions that I think might be helpful to you. The curriculum does a good job of sort of explaining the structure. That's pretty neat to look at. I would definitely encourage you to explain that to your class. Explain to them again that it's not just poetic songs, but it is the type of thing that they would have sung together, which is fun, although that would be a super long hymn. I'm almost certain they would have broken that down in chunks too. But the historical stuff in there, that's worth looking at for a minute. But I think maybe the most fruitful thing that you can do between now and Sunday before you present this to your class is you spend some time just reading Psalm 119. And literally what I did with my Bible is I started circling passages that were meaningful to me, as well as things that I knew would be meaningful to my students, because I know my students and I know what's going on with them. As I'm reading through this passage, I go, oh, hey, that would be neat for this group, and that would be neat for this group. You know your connection group. So read through Psalm 119 and circle verses that I think, or that you think would be encouraging to your class. And then talk about those and present those. Strategically speaking, again, covering the whole chapter is probably not going to work out so well. But if you pick out 2 or 3 of the 8 verse sections and look at those, that'll be really, really fruitful for you. Although I will say, if you decided to just sit down as a class and read the psalm together, all 160, it covers 2.5 pages of all 176 verses. If you did that together, I think you would find that really, really enjoyable. Certainly if you read it together, maybe break your class up. Hey, you read these 8 verses. And then stop when something jumps out at you that's meaningful. Stop and discuss that as a class. But if this psalm teaches us anything, the Word of God is powerful. And not only reading it, but really meditating on it and soaking it in and letting it permeate our lives. And this is the part of the psalm that was so meaningful to me this morning. The sections where David or all the writers are just begging God, please, 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 Lord, impress these things in my heart. Unite my heart on your thoughts. Change the way that I view the world and do it through your word. If you just looked at those passages and then prayed that together, man, would that be an incredible Sunday. But either way, I'm glad we're meeting. I'm glad we're looking at the Word of God together. And I can't wait to share some stuff about kids camp with you on Sunday, because golly, was it awesome. Over 20 kids came to know Jesus, not only from our church, but other churches too. So be encouraged. The kingdom's on the move, and he's going to keep doing that this Sunday. Folks, we love y'all. We'll talk to you later. Bye.